Hey, what's up, guys? You're now listening to Devo with Uncle Theo. Today is day 209, and we're in a new book. We're in the book of Ecclesiastes, and we're going to cover chapters 1 through 4 today. Just to give a little setting and authorship, the author of this book is said to be Solomon. A reason that Solomon could very well be the author of this book is because of what the writer chases. Solomon has the resources to accomplish this. And this book is considered written later in Solomon's life. We should consider this book Solomon's repentance. We've seen his life. We've seen how he started well and he ended badly. But if you look at how he truly ended, ultimately, Ecclesiastes helps us with that. So we don't see this in the Kings, but if you wonder if he repents, this is it. This is his legacy to his son. Don't do what I did. But we find out that his son didn't take his advice. It's too late, as we know what Rehoboam does to divide the kingdom. So have you ever had to question what is the meaning of life? Ecclesiastes answers that question. Solomon writes this book. He sets out to find the meaning of life. And so this is how you approach this book. It's not him just rambling and giving a bunch of contrasting and polar opposite statements. No, this book is crafted very carefully. We just saw that in Proverbs, where that book was masterfully written, a riddle giving you all sorts of wisdom to draw you in, to show you that you weren't wise if you couldn't put those puzzle pieces together. And it found its climax in showing you that Lady Wisdom was the Proverbs 31 woman. And so the same author writes this. And what he's going to do here is he's going to use sarcasm to break down worldview. And he's going to use polar opposites, and he's going to use good rhetoric to do that. So Solomon is the preacher here. Let's open it up. Chapter 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanities of vanity, says the preacher. Vanities of vanities. All is vanity. So that word in the Hebrew means breath or meaningless. And that's what the preacher is saying about this life. Verse 3. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning to its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, they will return again. All things are wearisome. More than one can say, the eye has never seen enough seeing, nor the ear is filled of hearing. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long before, and it was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. What Solomon is saying, he's showing the cyclical nature of the world. And by that, I mean life is a cycle. The seed goes in, the seed comes out, but it's never full. And I love to push back against people with this buzzword that say, man, I want to leave a legacy. That's what I really want to do. And really, no one cares. The best you'll get is a street named after you. And people really don't pay attention to that after a while. It's if you think you can make a difference here, Solomon's saying, no, you can't. You can't make a difference. You can't change the world. There's nothing new under the sun. And I love how one theologian put this. There's nothing new. Somebody may come out with something new saying, hey, we got FaceTime, we got Zoom, where you can do virtual calls. This is brand new. So talking to people on the phone and seeing another person is new. No, it's not new. We've been doing it. We've always had talking. No, I got something new. The new Cybertruck from Tesla is out. We got cars. Now we got electric cars, traveling. So this is brand new. No, it's not new. So you mean to tell me traveling from point A to point B is new? We haven't done that before. And this is what Solomon is arguing. You may come up with a fancier way to do things, but it's always been here. And it's just repeating itself. And at the end of the day, nothing we set out to do, it's all vanity. It's all folly. Even you trying to leave your legacy, like just stop with the striving. It's meaningless. And so what Solomon is going to do here, he says, look, I'm going to set out and pursue. I'm going to pursue everything with all my might. And look, I got the money to do it. And that's what he's saying here in verse 12. I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I apply my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I apply myself to understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned that too is chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. And in chapter 2, Solomon said, I myself come now to test you with pleasure and to find out what is good. So Solomon is saying, hey, let's have every folly, let's have every pleasure in the world. And you know what it measured up to for him? Nothing. And this is encouraging because there's so much pressure in this world. We're pressured to go to school and get good grades. We're pressured to go to college. We're pressured to graduate. We're pressured to get a job. We're pressured to pay off student loans, to get a house, to get a car, to get married, to stay healthy, to be motivated. All of these pressures are in this life. And so we need clarity in all of this. Which way do we go in life? So this book is what gives us perspective and it gives us value. And so Solomon here introduces the futility of life. He's a preacher of what? Vanity. So Solomon starts to investigate this. He says, I got all the money in the world and I'm going to go after this with all of my heart. And he finds out it's empty. It's nothing. He says, look, I can go and get smart and get all of the wisdom, but you still die. So you die no different than the fool. Wisdom is better. And Solomon proves it may seem better, but you still die. Just like the fool. You and the fool end up the same way. Now you got all the money in the world. You can store it up, but you have to die. And your children can get it. Listen to what he says. He says, so I hated life because of the work that is done under the sun was so grievous to me. All is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things that I toiled for under the sun because I must leave them to one who comes after me. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish, yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil into which I poured all my effort and skill under the sun. He says, you got to leave that to somebody else. And you don't know what they're going to do with it. What you spent all your life building, they may continue in your ways, but they may squander overnight. And he says, a person can do nothing better than to eat, drink, and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too I see is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? So we get a hint that whatever you do, God needs to be. And so most think that Solomon is cynical here, but what he's really doing is he's breaking down worldviews. He's breaking down to build up. Ecclesiastes 3, and this is a famous verse. It's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And what Solomon is saying is God is totally sovereign over time. And so Solomon is hitting everything, both the righteous and the unrighteous person, they die. God is sovereign over death, over money, over time, over life. And he uses all of this to show the futility of it. I love this verse in verse 11. It says, he's made everything beautiful in its time. He's also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning. And this is so true. God has made man for his eternal purposes. And nothing in this world can give you satisfaction apart from God, because you were created in his image. And we're always trying to fill that void with something temporal. And it never will satisfy the eternal void. Only God can satisfy that. We move into chapter 4. It says, and I looked again and saw the oppression that was taking place under the sun. I saw tears of the oppressed, and they have no comforter. Powers on the side of their oppressors, and they had no comforter. And I declared that the dead who had already died are happier than the living, who are still alive. But better than both is the one who has never been born, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. And what is he saying here? Death is the great equalizer. Nobody can avoid death. Not the rich, not the poor, not the powerful, not the oppressed. We all end up in the same place. And Solomon is arguing that death neutralizes everything. It's the great equalizer. Verses 4-6. A neighbor always sees and wants what they do not have. This is the typical keeping up with the Joneses, never being satisfied. Solomon says this is meaningless. You stop when you die. That great equalizer hits us all and it ends it all. But during this life, we're always setting goals. We're always trying to achieve something. And Solomon's talking about the irony of motivation. Listen, you keep going, but you never achieve, and it's all meaningless. He says here that if you're lazy, you're a fool. Even if you're highly motivated, you're a fool. This is what chapter 4 is getting at. And I like how it was put this way. These are the people who love the big motivational videos on YouTube, the TED Talks. Solomon is taking his jab at that. And obviously I'm being anachronistic because this stuff is way after Solomon. And so he's using polar opposites. And these are some of his strongest arguments of polar opposites. And in fact, my professor once told me that you do know that philosophers are very dark people. And in fact, he was talking to a philosopher, a man from UC, and he ended up getting saved from this book of Ecclesiastes because he said, you know what? I'm a philosopher, and Ecclesiastes affirmed all my fears. This life is meaningless. As I pursue wisdom and knowledge and philosophizing everything, I found out that everything is a polar opposite and it's meaningless. Isn't that powerful? Ecclesiastes affirmed this secular philosopher's fears and he got saved. And so think about that for reading the whole counsel of God. God is all wise in how he chose his books of the Bible. Let's not neglect any of these books. Get all the wisdom that you can from all the books of the Old Testament, and they'll help you as you walk through the books you're more familiar with and the covenant that you're under in the new covenant. So let's keep chasing this journey with Solomon together, and let's see what he pulls out from chasing all of the things that the world has to offer. And I'm pretty sure you're getting a hint on the result of those things. You guys stay tuned, and let's continue to walk together through this book.